Hello and welcome to another episode of Acceptable Madness. My name is Scott McKinney, and today I'm going to talk about what I think is, for me, the most important thing about coping and dealing with depression and anxiety, besides having a good night's sleep and a good support system, and that's creativity. On this podcast, I have talked about all of the creative endeavors that I like to partake in, and that includes writing, doing this podcast, recording videos that I do with my friend, and I've actually experimented in a couple other mediums also. I like to create tabletop games or card games, although they take a lot more time than I have to dedicate right now. And I also like experimenting with music. Now, the music that I do is, unlike my writing, which can be very dark and a bit sociopathic from time to time, the music that I always try to write is more comedic in nature. But I think that the reason that I think that creativity is so important is because having an outlet for all of the things that you're struggling with, or all of those thoughts that you have but are either embarrassed or scared to tell people, or whatever your reason is for holding them back. I think you need to have some sort of an outlet to kind of, I guess, show your true colors. Now, one medium I haven't tried and don't like very much is painting or drawing very much, because it's just not as fun for me. I have nothing wrong with it. But, I mean, anything that you can do to express yourself in a way that isn't just talking to people that sometimes you feel don't care or don't understand is just putting yourself out there in a way that maybe people can understand through different meanings. And what I mean by that is, like I said, it's just finding a way to express yourself. And for me, the main way that I do that is through my writing. So I like to talk about mental health because I know how devastating it can be for so many people, myself included. Sometimes it's absolutely miserable, and trying to overcome the intrusive and sometimes suicidal thoughts that run through my head can feel like the end of the world. Like, it takes so much effort sometimes, and I know I'm not alone on that. So what I like to do is I like to channel those emotions and write about stuff that can help me kind of get rid of those emotions for a little while. And pardon the voice cracks that will be in this episode, because my throat feels like I swallowed fire, and it has for a few days, so it's very sore. I don't know if I'm getting sick or what, but hopefully it won't be too bad this episode, but that's not really that important. Just kind of a heads up. But an example of a way that I have, a direct example of a way that I've been able to kind of calm the less than perfect thoughts that I had in one given moment was, I wrote a short that was like half a page long, so very small, and it was called Harpoon Gun. And the premise of the short was me trying to figure out if I attached a noose to the end of a harpoon gun and shot that harpoon gun into the air with the noose tied around my neck, what would happen? If it would actually kill me, if it would, just debilitate me. I didn't know what it was going to do, and I still don't, and I never have any intention of figuring it out. But the thing that I wrote was about that, and it's because every night for like half a year I was thinking about that, and those are not amazing thoughts to have every night for like 6 months. But the second I was able to write them down, even though they were scary for me to actually put on paper, and scary to know that maybe someone will eventually stumble across it and I'll feel like a crazy sociopathic, suicidal maniac. I didn't worry about that. I just needed some outlet to kind of get those thoughts out of my head and in a format that wasn't going to do anything negative to me. And it's not just short stories or novels or something that you could write. for me, it is those two things. I don't experiment with poetry very much, again, unless it's in the comedic sense. If you follow me on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, or any of those social media forums, I have a poem that I wrote called I Burnt My Penis in the Shower, which is based on a true story where I live in a pretty cold environment. It gets very cold during the winter, so the apartment that I lived in last year, I had to turn the water on basically all the way, like turn the heat up all the way in order to have a lukewarm shower. And then the first nice day of the year, where it went immediately from like, I don't know, like 15 degrees, and then the next day was like 50 or something like that. I did the same thing and jumped into the shower, and it stung like a bitch. And so I recounted that in a poem that I wrote, and it's a poem that I think is hilarious, and I'm personally proud of it, but it was just a way to kind of put those thoughts down and be able to laugh at myself about it. And that makes me feel better in every sense of the words. And I don't know. And I know that not everybody is super creative, and not everybody has this a creative bone in their body, where some people just, they prefer to indulge in other people's media. So I still love watching TV and listening to music and all that stuff, but I get a different and more personal sense of pleasure out of creating my own stories and my own art than I do watching others or reading others or blah blah blah. So for me, creating and creativity has always been something that is really important to me. And I say always, but really it only happened within the past 2 years. What ended up happening was I decided that I wanted to write a book, and then I just kind of did it with the support of a few of my friends. And then from there, after I had this really basic story down, not very good because it was my first attempt, but I started writing other little short things, like half pages, like I said, Harpoon Gun was. And it was to, one, improve my writing skills, but two, get these really quick thoughts out in a way that it would take them from my brain and put them on paper. And then after that happened, I didn't think about them as much. And that is what kind of started this trend for me to just want to make things. Because it's just fun. Whenever I was in college, I had a little bit of extra time, and I'd make YouTube videos that were really basic and not very edited, and with this character that I had, because I was trying to hide behind this character so I could feel more comfortable putting my work out there. And his name was Mr. Eighth Wonder, and he was just this arrogant piece of shit, and which is based on my own arrogance sometimes. So I know that I have sometimes I can be very arrogant, and so that's what it was based off of. And then I messed with that for a little bit, and then I hit a point where I took like a 1-year hiatus for making videos, and then I came back and I realized that I didn't need a pseudonym to make videos anymore. So I put it under the Acceptable Madness brand, and I've been making them with my friend Nikos, and it's been a really good way for, one, us to stay in touch since he's moved down to Virginia to pursue his career, and two, just to have another creative outlet. And we both put up at least one video a week whenever we can, and real life doesn't step in and take control of our schedules, and it's really fun. And it's a really good way to invest your brain, your mental and physical energy into a project that you're working on, that you're excited to see the end of it. Because I can work on a video that's 3 minutes long, and if I'm feeling quite daring, it could be a very edited video. And for some people that are like video editors, or that's what they went to college for and stuff, it might not seem like a lot. But for me, doing pretty significant video editing takes a really long time, even in something crude like a YouTube video. And if I set out to do something like that, then I'm really excited about the final project, and all of the self-doubt and self-hatred and self-loathing that I have, it kind of goes to the back of my brain for a little while, and I can focus on what I'm working on in that moment. And I mean, I've met people that whenever they have all those thoughts, they tend to gravitate towards alcohol or drug use or other things like that. But for me, it really just became creating things and sharing them with anybody. Because even if the stuff that I made 2 years ago, like I'm proud of it because I'm happy that I was able to commit to something and just do it. That feels good, just accomplishing something. But I'm not, the stuff that I made 2 years ago is not phenomenal. If anything, it's mediocre, and I'm fully aware of that, and I'm fine with that. It's just nice to see that improvement over time, along with just making something and putting your heart into it. Like, if you go back and listen to episode 1 of this podcast, it's me being an awkward fuck because I feel like I have no right to make a podcast because I'm just some guy. And although deep down I still feel that way at least a little bit, it doesn't matter anymore. It's just me having fun, and this is for me, and I really hope it reaches out to people and it can help as many people as possible. But doing this is for me and the small listenership that I have. And I've been really happy with the improvement in quality also. I've learned how to do a little bit more voice editing, which I didn't know how to do through Adobe Audition. I've been, I've reached out to people and tried to get guests on this podcast, which is really hard when you don't have the most amazing listenership. So it's definitely a grind from the start, but it's a fun grind. And I've been able to have a few episodes where I have my friends on, and we talk about things that don't usually come up in day-to-day conversation. And I was able to learn a lot more about Trevor and Danny in a very personal way, and one that I felt like only it could have improved the friendship that we had. And that may sound very cheesy, and honestly, I think it sounds cheesy, but again, I just don't care, which is so different from the mentality that I had whenever I was in like high school and even college. Because I was always, and I still worry about how people perceive me and view me, and that's why I had a character of Mr. Eighth Wonder, is because I know that one of my least desirable traits can be over arrogance. So I thought that if I threw a crown and a cape on and talked in a lower voice, then it would make people think that, oh, he's just doing a character. He's not really an arrogant asshole. And but now I've realized that, first off, that's a personality trait that I have and one that I work on subduing. But along with that, it's just allowed me to progressively get more comfortable with myself and not care if people are out there that see it. And I know a lot of people are worried now with like the new social media platforms and finding careers for people that do use social media very frequently, because they're afraid that someone will see some sort of damning comment or post or whatnot on Facebook whenever they're applying for jobs. And for a little while, I worried about that too. But anymore, my thought is if I'm applying for a job and some employer sees that and they decide they don't want to hire me, then fuck them, because I think what I'm doing is pretty cool. And if they don't like it, then I don't think we'd get along anyway. Now, I'm not saying go and post very, very terrible things online, because I don't think I post that many terrible things, but even still, you never know who's going to be out there that really hates the work that you do. And that's definitely a fear that I have. But I just, being creative and letting my brain go wild and indulging in my own fantasies as opposed to just watching or listening to or thinking about other people's creations is so cathartic for me. And I can't even explain how it really makes me feel other than just relaxed. And that's something that I don't feel relaxed very often at all. Like, I feel like I'm always somewhat stressed or somewhat anxious. But the second I'm able to dive into something, I forget that the world exists around me. And it makes me, I don't want to go as far as saying it makes me happy, but it certainly doesn't make me less happy. And And honestly, that goes into some of my other thoughts, which is, like I said, I want this brand to be one that helps people, even if it's just an individual person. But I also do have ideas where I think it would be really cool to get a bigger following and people that like the content that I put out and are excited for it. And I can't wait for that. And sometimes I get a little bit hasty and get a little bit inside my head because of the very slow growth that happens from strictly organic views and listens through all of the different platforms that I'm using. But I feel that if you're ever trying to make a living out of your creative passion, then the end goal cannot be fame or fortune, because then I feel like that could just cheapen it, or it could make you feel super rushed and not like the product as much. And it's something that I have struggled with and continue to at some points. And but just having a way to express yourself and be creative is something that is very important to me. And once I'm able to kind of push those ideas of grandeur down and ignore them, the work that I do is just very fun. And it's fun to share them with my friends, and it's fun to get their feedback, and it's fun to surprise them if I do something that's a bit more unique or interesting, or kind of sometimes even off-putting. But it's just so much fun. And the influencers or the brands or the people that you follow are the culmination of so many hours of work and improvement and passion, that's what you have to be willing to put into it if you want to be even remotely successful. Like, I don't know many people that come to fame immediately and then they don't burn out throughout the years, or actually struggle more with mental illness because of the pressures that come from everything like that. And it's such a rare occurrence that someone will just get the spotlight or become viral based on not putting in the time. And personally, although I think those examples are few and far between, I think that they are good examples to look at if you're looking to kind of understand that good work and quality content and being able to maintain a pleasant personality behind the content takes a lot of time and a lot of self-reflection and wisdom building just through going through life. And it takes a lot of patience, which is definitely something that a lot of people struggle with, especially because there are so many things that are just easy to come by anymore. And it's just a lot of fun. And even if you're not creative, or even if you're really modest about your skills, or you're terrified to even give it a shot, like say you are a writer and you just hate your work, or you used to write a lot but then you stopped because you weren't happy with it, or because you could see that it wasn't going anywhere whenever you were doing it, I encourage you to take a step back and think about why you were doing it. Because if it was just for fame, then I feel like you need to be really, really, really passionate about it until you forget that it's about fame and realize that it's just for the passion. And then maybe it'll work itself out. And this is coming from someone that has not risen to this, fantastical prestige or notoriety that comes with being an influencer, or being creative, or stuff like that. So I don't know. I think being creative can be one of the best things if you're ever feeling bad about yourself, as long as the reason you're doing it is to make your life or make other people's lives a little bit better. For example, told you I'm not good at music, and I mean, like, I like writing crappy songs sometimes using like royalty-free music, but what I want to do at some point is I want to make a song, and it'll sound ridiculous, and that's because it is, but I want to make a song called North for You. And I want it to be a very cheesy love song. And in that love song, I want North for You to be about, so like north is the way that a compass always points, north and south, but I want it to be, it's funny because I feel ridiculous saying it, even though I'm eventually going to try to make this song, but I want it to be about my nipples pointing to whatever I'm in love with, whether that's a woman or an ideology or a landscape or something. I want it to be north for you, and because north is like the center of everything, I basically would want it to be that my nipples are always pointing to what I'm searching for. And it's the dumbest shit that I've ever come up with, besides maybe a very few things. And I can't wait to do it. I need to wait a little bit and save up a little bit of money because I'm recovering from being unemployed and I'm not making a just massive amount of money right now. and that's fine. But eventually I want to pay some guy on YouTube that's trying to make it with music, buy one of his songs and then write lyrics for it about a song where my nipples point to what I'm interested in. And it's, I can't imagine anybody finds that and goes, wow, this is a life-changing piece of work. This is what I have been searching for, and this just made my entire day and life better. I can't imagine anybody finds that and has that response to it. But I'm doing it for me because I think it would be a lot of fun, and I think it'd be fun to share it with my friends and just see that initial, Scott, what the fuck, reaction from them. Because that's the same kind of reaction that I think is a lot of fun. But in those moments where I'm thinking about it and thinking about any creative endeavor, I have a dumb smile on my face. And I can tell that I'm genuinely incredibly passionate about all of the hobbies that I have and all of the stuff that I want to do. And it's just fun. And sometimes it can be really, really hard to find things that are fun in life. I'll give an example of me being a piece of shit recently because I was struggling with my brain. And that was my brother, nicest guy. He's honestly a great, amazing brother. And I wouldn't wish for anything to change about him. I think he's great. And what he is he's a very extroverted person and likes to go out, and we live close to each other, and he likes to go out and do a lot more extroverted things than I do. And again, it's just different personality types, and there's nothing wrong with either the way that either of us act or think. But he invited me out one day, and so he was gonna do something on Wednesday, and the Monday before, he asked me if I was interested in going. And the mentality that I had on Monday was like, yeah, hell yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. I can't wait to do it. And then Wednesday comes around and I had forgotten about it. And I'm in a pretty shitty mood. And I don't really feel like leaving my apartment or anything. And then I get a call from my brother. And I'm sitting there just on my phone, and I just stare at the call. And I just stare longer. And then it goes to my voicemail. And I don't know what caused me to not pick up, but I felt like an asshole. Like the whole time I was like, I could have just picked up. I told him that I wanted to go, or at least I showed some sort of investment and excitement for it. I should have at least picked up and given him a good answer. And instead I just ignored it. And I've done that to plenty of people before because I almost always have my phone on me. So whenever I don't pick up the phone, it's usually because I don't want to or don't feel capable of entertaining that call. And I just felt like such a douchebag. And I don't know how I got to this place. But I don't know how I got here. I go on these weird tangents, but that's something that has been on my mind a lot recently, and I felt really bad about it. And I still do, and I told him that next week, whenever he does it, I'll be sure to go no matter how I'm feeling. Because I was sure to apologize and explain to him what was going through my brain at that moment. And I just didn't feel great about it. And then for that day, I was just kind of in a bad mood. not because I was mad at anybody, but just because I was kind of, I guess I was mad at myself. And then I was able to, the next day, dedicate some time to my hobbies, and believe it or not, I felt better. I understand that what I did was bad, and I should have been more communicative, or follow through on the expectation that was set. But I had such a hard time with it. And then I wrote something, recorded something, or did something that just made me feel better. And it's always fun, especially whenever I can share it with people. Like, Photoshop is something else that I don't play with too much, but I do think it's a lot of fun whenever I do work on it. It's just another one of those things where if I had more time in the day, I would sit down and work on Photoshop more. But writing in this podcast and getting rejected by hundreds and hundreds of literary agents is basically my free time anymore. And that's a bit of an exaggeration for agents, but I have applied to a lot. So it's, I don't know. The constant rejections don't hurt as bad whenever I'm just dedicating my time to what I'm actually passionate about. It's, life has some things in it that make it worthwhile, especially when you're feeling like you're in a bad place. And for me, that usually comes from creativity. Some people, again, they find it in alcohol, which maybe isn't the most healthy thing. But I hope people feel better and don't develop a dependency on it. Same with drugs. Anything that works as something to make you feel better. And not that false feeling better where you like put yourself in a situation where you're like, I should be happy. And then you put on a fake smile the whole time or something. Because fake happiness is not happiness, and you know that, and everyone around you, they may or may not know it, but you do, and that's important. That's an important distinction to make, because if I'm in a shitty mood and I sit down to write something, and if I can convince myself to do it, then I'm in a better mood and I just feel happier. But if I'm in a shitty mood and I decide to go out and go to a bar or something, that's not something that I personally have any fun with. Most times, especially when I'm in a bad mood. And if I go with people that even though they might be people that I like and want to spend time with, the idea of going out and doing that is more of a chore than it is excitement sometimes. And again, that's just an important distinction to make. I'm not saying everybody is the most creative person in the world. If anything, I know I kind of have a problem because of how much time I dedicate to my hobbies, because I just have so much fun with them. And I never really get bored because there are so many different mediums that I can explore, such as videos or writing or music and podcasts. And there are so many things that I can touch upon that fulfill that part of my brain that really wants some happiness in there. And it's nice. And if it's not creativity for you, that's okay. But I'm hoping that what you do find to have a bit more fun and a bit more enjoyment and happiness in your life is, one, something obtainable. So if you think that your happiness would come from, say you're into writing like I am, and you think that the only thing that'll make you happy is becoming a published author, know that is a very, very dangerous path to walk. Because then, even if you work really hard for years and years and then you become a published author, I would say that there is like a 99% chance that you get to that status and you're still unhappy. So don't set unrealistic goals for yourself also, and also don't make happiness seem like the result of one individual action, because that will lead to disappointment. And I think it'll make you struggle even more in the future. So that's something to keep in mind, and something that I think every creative person and everybody who's trying to make a name for themselves in whatever medium or industry they're trying to work in, I think that finding happiness in what you do and the day-to-day things and finding things that you can cling on to when you're in a bad mood is important. And you need to take it one day at a time. And again, that is something that I struggle with sometimes, and that's why I'm expressing it now, because I know that the things that I struggle with, I'm sure that there are plenty others out there that struggle with it too. So I really want to kind of state how important it is to just have fun with what you're doing. And if you're not having fun with it, cut it out of your life. Because if you're not having fun with it, then chances are other people won't either. Like, if I didn't actually like doing this podcast, you and every other listener that's here would just be like, this guy's full of shit. Like, he doesn't like doing this. What's the point? And I feel like sincerity is one of the most important qualities of anybody that wants to talk to somebody else, because I'm not an expert in everything, and if I tried to be, then that would, one, be, in my opinion, pretty immature, and also it would make what I'm saying just feel cheap. And I don't want that. Everything I say, I want it to have some sort of an impact positively on someone. So I know that this episode was kind of all over the place. I think it's because I'm a little bit sick and my throat is killing me, but my being creative for me is just it's like 90% of my life force. If I didn't have it, I don't know where I would be in my life. But it took me like 21 years to figure out that it was even something that I liked doing. And I'm happy that I found it at that age. I wish I had found it earlier in life, but I'm happy I found it when I did. And there are people out there that still may not know that they have some passion out there that they haven't experienced. And I hope everybody can find something that they can cling on to in the hardest of times, and really milk it for the happiness that you can get out of it. Because I think that's important. And whenever you're thinking that you're infinitesimally small and just a speck of dust in the universe, it helps to know that even if you are a speck of dust, you're a speck of dust that's creating some fun shit and some stuff that makes every day seem a little bit better. So thank you for listening. I want to say I have a wedding to go to tomorrow. I would have loved to wait to record this until my throat felt a little bit better, but I have a wedding to go to, so I guess by the time this releases, the wedding will be finished. So congratulations to Pete and his now wife on their wedding, and I will talk to all of you again soon. If you like what I'm doing, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, follow me on Spotify, and also check out my YouTube channel. All of it's under the name Acceptable Madness, and hopefully it's pretty easy to find, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, or if you guys have any opinions or want me to talk about something specific, just let me know, and I'd be happy to do that for you. So thanks again for listening. Have a wonderful time, and I'm still bad at ending episodes. Bye.